Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bill Ims, and on behalf of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you to our Mayor Forum. We are very fortunate today to have this forum to give you an insight as to the candidates from which you will select the individual who will represent you and the city. One of the other things that's really great is, I don't know how many of you have been at Miracosta College before. One of the nice things about the college is they love working with the community. They have provided us with this wonderful room in which to conduct our forum. And to give you a little history lesson, I'd like to present to you the chair of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, Jerry Salyer. Jerry?
Hi everyone. Is this thing on? Hi everyone. Welcome today. I just wanted to start off with a little political trivia contest today. Who was the county supervisor before Bill Horn? Does anyone other than Marva know who that might be? Anybody? Any other civilians before we get to the pros up here?
Is pictures on the wall?
Yeah, the hint is from the teacher. The pictures on the wall. It's Dr. John McDonald. And isn't this a great room to have the meeting? And it was designed or honored. It honors a very great man that was a Chamber of Commerce president in 1975 and was elected to the county supervisors, I think, in 1986 and served for 2 terms before Bill Horn. But I just wanted everyone to.
1 term.
I don't think the show's started yet, Terry. And at any rate, I just wanted everyone to take a quick look at the beautiful painting on the wall. Think about Dr. John McDonald, who was probably one of the great political leaders and educational leaders in our community. I just want everyone to be aware of that. And I want to thank Miracosta College for providing us this wonderful facility. This is a great place to hold a forum, and I think everybody had a good time last week, and I'm sure this is going to be just as much fun today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. Not only was Jerry our first speaker, he also has an official capacity. He's second in line of our timer. We actually have 2 timers, Debbie Allen, who is the immediate past chair of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, and then, of course, Jerry Salyer is the current chair of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce is putting on this event, in particular, the Business and Community Political Action Committee. And this committee was started, I believe, in 2003, and the purpose was to give the citizens an opportunity to be aware of things that happen in our community and what we can do to make sure we select the right person who will best represent our interests. They say that the right to vote and choose is a privilege, but it certainly is a much more enhanced privilege when we have a wise decision on whom we feel will best represent us. Because normally, if you notice, for example, today we have 3 candidates, and you may recognize their name, you may know 1 or even 2 of the individuals, and not the 3rd. And the most you would ever learn about them, if you looked in any publications, is a carefully worded release, which was prepared by them or their PR arm, and maybe a photo. And although there are people who choose by photo, we recommend a more deeper qualification. And so what we've done, we put this together today to give you an opportunity to hear how our 3 candidates will respond to concerns which have been brought to our attention by members of this community. So the format in which we are going to conduct our forum today is we have 2 different types of questions to which we will ask them to respond. They are open-ended questions, which mean they are not answered yes or no necessarily. They would have some narrative with it. And so you'll be able to find out a little bit what's on their mind and how they would resolve issues or what they think is important or perhaps not as important. And some of the questions will be answered by all 3 individuals, not simultaneously, but one after another. The other types of questions will be directed to a particular candidate, and that candidate's question will be entirely different than another person's question. So what we're going to do is begin, and I'm going to face our candidates this way, and I'll read the questions, and then certain questions you'll have 90 seconds each to answer. And to kind of give you an idea so you don't have to watch the clock, we have our timekeeper-in-chief, Debbie Allen, and her associate, Jerry Salyer, who have a very sophisticated alert system. When you have 30 seconds remaining, so in other words, a 90-second question, you'll have spoken for about a minute. When you have 30 seconds remaining, you will get a signal which looks like this. This is the green side of the card. Now, once you have 15 minutes of that already absorbed, you will have a stationary 15 seconds, thank you. A stationary red signal like this, and when you're at the end, he starts waving it around. And if you speak after that, there is a hook to grab you off the dais. So that's the way we'll do that. For 60-second questions, you will have the green, once again, with 30 seconds remaining, the stationary red with 15 seconds remaining, and then you're off at the stationary red. So thank you very much for being here. First of all, we know your schedules are busy. And one thing I would like the audience to know, these candidates have not seen or heard or received any clues to the questions which we are about to ask them this evening. So thank you very much. And we are going to start with Terry Johnson. And this is a 90-second question, Mr. Johnson. In your ballot statement, you said that in your previous role as mayor, you brought jobs and credibility to Oceanside. In light of the current economic situation, what ideas do you have to generate jobs in Oceanside? Terry?
Thank you, Bill, for the question. And it's a very valid question in these times we face. And as you know, during the time when Dick Lyon was the mayor, along with myself and council members Colleen O'Hara, Betty Harding, and Carol McCauley, for 6 years you had the same council members, which was a very rare feat for Oceanside back then. And during that 6-year period, pretty sure you can say that Oceanside was blessed to experience probably its greatest expansion of economic growth and prosperity. And we did so because even with the differences of the 5 council members we had, we learned a few things from Carlsbad and some other cities that take your disagreements in the back room, and for the most part, when you come outside to the public, have and reach consensus on the direction you want to take your city. And that is something I see seriously lacking with today's council, and we need to consider going back to that form of government where you can argue and disagree all you want to in closed session, but when you come out, reach consensus, because investors would truly like to feel comfortable and safe in Oceanside. They're going to be investing their dollars. You do not want to be putting your money in an area that's unstable.
Thank you very much. Jerry Kern, we have a question for you. You indicated in your ballot statement that in the past you have been the principal supporter of legislation to reduce fees and regulations on our citizens and businesses to promote economic growth and job opportunities. Which fees and regulations would you target to promote job opportunities in Oceanside? Mr. Kern?
Thank you. And actually, I'm going to thank everybody here on behalf of the candidates up here for affording us this opportunity to come and speak to you and to speak to the community. I'm sure we all appreciate the time. I was one of the original Backpack members way back when, and this was what the Backpack was designed for, to bring information to the community. As far as the question goes, the fees and regulations, a couple things that I have done in the past is, one is for very small lot developers, people that are building their dream home. The idea of doing away with the undergrounding requirement for their home. It saves them thousands upon thousands of dollars in undergrounding fees so they can get their dream home built. Just on small lots, not for large developers, just for people that are going to build that one home. The other ones that we've done, and you noticed that City of Carlsbad did it the other night, is defer the impact fees until the end of the project. So people don't have to go out and borrow money in order to pay the fees for to build their project. Now, they still have to pay the fees, when the impacts occur. So when you talk about water and sewer hookup fees, until people occupy the building, there is no impact on our water and sewer system. So, but at time of occupancy, they have to pay the fees. So all the cities are going to that. Escondido has gone to that. Carlsbad voted for it the other night. We actually got out ahead of it, and we did it last year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Wood, in your ballot statement, you spoke about enhancing our downtown area for our use and to attract visitors. Since money seems to be in short supply in Oceanside, how will you go about doing that? Jim?
Thank you. Tough question in the sense that the economy. It's a tough one, but I'll get into the issues. First off, I would imagine that we have to have education, an educated populace that will man those stores and businesses downtown. That's why I'm saying Maricosta Colleges is one of those ways. Get the education to have the stores and the occupants. The other one is Oceanside has had a tough time with the economy like everybody else. But I think you'll see that we've done a lot of things. I think you'll notice that in the downtown area, which we're going to do without fees, we have a lot of help from outside sources, and that what I mean partnerships. We'll start off with the Chamber of Commerce. There's no doubt about that, having input for the downtown area and selling Oceanside for what it is, a great city in Southern California. We certainly have Main Street. Main Street's done a wonderful job for the businesses too, bringing them here. More importantly, I think they did is a downtown street fair. Oceanside was considered a crime-ridden military time. People were afraid to come here. We've changed that. I think we've now seen that people come here, see it's a wonderful place, stay here, and it makes more business. We certainly have the possibility of having more from our downtown hotels that are going forward. We're having a groundbreaking next week for one of them. The other beach hotel is going forward. With that, we also have North County Transit putting a new center in for more parking. And certainly Sandag is putting more sand on our beaches. So those are from the outside without spending money.
Thank you very much. The next question is a question which we will ask of each of you, and we're going to start off with Terry Johnson. The question is, water is highly valued and essential to life itself. Last year, Governor Brown vetoed Senate Bill 833, which would have stopped Gregory Canyon landfill. There are people in Oceanside who object to the Gregory Canyon landfill, which they see as a real threat to Oceanside's drinking water. Where do you stand on the Gregory Canyon landfill, and is it a done deal? Terry?
Bill, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, that's a very, very good question for those of us who live downstream from that canyon. And for those of you who may not remember, when I was the mayor serving you, way back when, we as a council agreed and we supported 5-0 a petition and legislation to oppose the Gregory Canyon landfill. And Oceanside was on record for that without any hesitation because, as you know, here we are living in a semi-desert area. Why would you want to put a landfill on top of a water source as critical as the river is to Oceanside? It just doesn't make any sense. And my position still stands today for that opposition to the Gregory Canyon landfill.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you the same question, Jerry. Would you like me to repeat it?
No. This is about the Vargas bill, 833, which was rightfully vetoed by the governor. And you know that Jerry Brown is actually well known for his environmental stances. This was one of those gut and amend bills that came through the legislature at the very last minute. Everybody had like a week or two to deal with it before it passed. The Gregory Canyon project has been voted on twice by the County of San Diego. Both times it passed overwhelmingly. And the last time it was voted on by the city of Oceanside, it passed in the city of Oceanside. So I think the voters have spoken that they realize that we have to do something with our trash. So the idea that I'm the type of person that says, let's listen to the voters, let's hear what they have to say. It was fully vetted twice now in the county of San Diego, and both times it was voted on that we have to do something with our trash. This is something that came out of Sandag, this is something that came out of South County, this is something that came out of the county in general. I opposed 833 is because of the way it was done. and I have flown to Sacramento at least once more on a gut and amend bill that the legislature has pushed through. So the idea, if people are against something and it goes to a vote of the people and the people vote for it, I'm going to listen to the vote of the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jim, would you like me to read the question back to you?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
It's outright wrong, let's face it. There's no doubt that the most valuable commodity we have in Southern California is water. As you know on your bills, we've gone up over 101% since 2006 from the Metropolitan Water District. That's a big increase over the years. Add to that, who in their right mind would put a trash landfill right next to a water source in Southern California? Again, our most valuable commodity. Downstream, we, the city of Oceanside, are very rare that we actually do a large percentage of our water, our own water, from underground sources from that river. So we were trying to go to 50% of our water in the future from underground sources from that river. Why would we spend the millions of dollars, state, federal, or local money, on doing more water supplies from underground rivers in Oceanside to find out one leak upstream would kill all of it, contaminate it, and wipe it out? So I think it's wrong. It shouldn't be. I think there was inaccurate information for the entire county when they voted on it. Obviously, South County has more people, can vote it through. Doesn't mean we want it. What's wrong with moving it one canyon over away from the water? That was a big issue. It was wrong. It should have never been done. And the Indian Tribal Council and stuff have been fighting it for years, and until recently when our voting majority changed and wanted to support it.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next question is a 90-second question, and each of you will receive a different question from the other. The first one is for Jim Wood. You stated in your ballot statement that you believe that the transparency of government should be returned. Where do you think this is missing, and what specific ideas do you have to bring it back?
Thank you. I think it's very important for citizens that are busy with their own lives. They don't know what's going on because they're trying to make a living. So we want transparency in our meetings and try to tell people what's going on, even though they can't show up at a council meeting. What we have is, I brought up the lobbyist ordinance. I think that's important. When people sit across the table from me and want to talk to me about something, trying to push it through the city of Oceanside, it's nice to know who they are, who they're representing, and who's paying them to be there talking to me. So I'd like to know that, so I pushed the lobbying ordinance through. It did pass. We had it on the books. Those people could be lobbyists, have to report it, have to tell me, have to tell the council who they're representing, who's paying them to do it. I think it's only reasonable for the public to know that and me to know it. That's been pulled off. A voting majority doesn't like it for obvious reasons. I think that's open transparency in government. I'd like to bring it back, even if it has to be a ballot initiative, to say open government, transparent.
Thank you very much. Okay, Jerry Kern, I have a question for you. In your ballot statement, you describe yourself as a thoughtful leader and decision maker. What is the toughest decision you have had to make as a council member? Why was it difficult, and what was the result?
Actually, they're all tough. I mean, the idea that when we get into project development, and there's always people, for it or against it, and you have to make those decisions, and you have to think about that thoughtfully. But I always like to go out and gather the full information. So let's take the lobbyist ordinance, for example, because we have a lobbyist ordinance in the city of Oceanside, and the clerk came to me right after I got elected and said, the lobbyist ordinance is just not working. It's costing us $60,000 a year to administer this lobbyist ordinance. Why don't we just change it so they just register once or register once a year? So we have a lobbyist ordinance in Oceanside. Evidently, Mr. Wood doesn't understand that we still have an ordinance. I don't know if he just doesn't understand our ordinances or he's deliberately misleading the people. But the idea that a lot of these things that come up through staff, come up from the people that approach us, and we have to make these decisions. There's some votes I regretted. And I know it's been brought up before, the enhanced retirement, the 2.7 that I voted on about 4 or 5 months after I was on the council. I thought about it and I explored it at the time, listened to staff, and I voted staff's recommendation. And retrospect, I probably shouldn't have. But we all make mistakes.
Thank you very much. Terry Johnson, in your ballot statement, you state that you will terminate polarized partisan politics. How will you do this?
Won't be easy. And the reason why, when you look at the dynamics of this present council, you have some individuals who really dislike each other. And I think it's quite unfortunate because you should be there as a team working for the good of all the residents. It doesn't matter what party you come from or what neighborhood you live in. You truly should represent all the residents. And that's why, if I am fortunate and blessed to gain your trust again and win this upcoming race, I will be totally and completely independent of any backbiting, backstabbing, in-house fighting, incivility, because it's critical we restore civility and pride to our city council, our government, so that those investors who are going to come back to Oceanside and help to rebuild Oceanside and move it forward again feel comfortable and trust that they can put their money in Oceanside and the risk will not be as great based on what you see today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is a 60-second question. The same question will be asked of each candidate, and we're going to start with Jim Wood. There has been a great deal of talk recently about outsourcing functions currently performed by city staff, such as fleet maintenance, street sweeping, tree trimming, ambulance service, and even police and fire services to private local businesses in the area. What do you see as the role of this type of outsourcing in the future of Oceanside? Mr. Wood?
Thank you. I'm not in favor of outsourcing. I think I've been part of the city government for a long time, 31 years in the police department, from the bottom to the top in the police department, here on the council now, and I've seen other cities and talk. There isn't any improvement in city services by outsourcing. You might save some money up front, but down the road you won't. And more importantly, after hours, what do you call them? The city employees will respond for emergencies and come back. Outside sources won't do it. Then you start talking about police and fire, public safety. That's certainly a cost to everybody else's life and livelihood that you would damage. Example would be outsourcing the paramedics. Number one, that's an expensive trip to the hospital for oxygen and maybe your blood pressure. It took us years to get paramedics in Oceanside. They can call the emergency doctor while they're transporting and do things to save your lives. EMTs can't do that. That's a big thing. That's a life-saving issue. Plus, if we drop that and went down to something else, we have boundary drops right now with all the other surrounding cities. The closest apparatus responds to your medical service calls. With that, we'd lose it all.
Thank you. Okay, Jerry Kern, I'm going to ask you the same question. Would you like it repeated?
No, and I've dealt with this for quite a long time. People have to realize that we're a business. The city of Oceanside is in the service delivery business. Now, years ago, we used to have our trash picked up by Oceanside Disposal, and we outsourced that. We actually got the private contract with Waste Management, which we make quite a bit of money on. They've actually contracted with us. So the idea of all outsourcing is bad or all outsourcing or preventing it is good is just flat wrong. It's a case-by-case basis. We need to evaluate our processes and what we do constantly. So on those repetitive jobs like street sweeping, I look at them as like the waste management of street sweepers, that we can go out and get economies of scale so we can maintain that same level of service at a lower cost. That's what we need to do, because we're in a recession that's going to last another 4 or 5 years, and we have to figure out how we're going to keep our costs under control.
Thank you. Terry Johnson, it's your turn. Would you like the question repeated?
No, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, if you're not aware of it already, that Oceanside is in trouble financially. And having sat in the council seat for 12 years, 8 as a council member, 4 as mayor, I can say honestly that we're probably teetering on the verge of bankruptcy like a few of the other cities. And the reason why, I remember clearly back in the summer of 2001 when Steve Jepson was our city manager and Dwayne Bennett was our city attorney and Brian Cameron was our human resource director. They gave specific information to the council back then that we could not afford the high salaries and pensions that the police and fire unions were requesting. But we had made a promise to the police and fire that we would try and bring them up from the bottom, at least to the middle. However, we would not be able to sustain it because it is unsustainable. And the rest is history. As a result of what happened from that point to now is where we are financially. And we need those public safety unions to come back in good faith and renegotiate down what was given to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is a 90-second question, and each of you will have the same opportunity to answer the same question. And we're going to start with Mr. Kern. If you had perceived quality of life issue facing you where your decision will benefit the residents of the city as a whole, but will negatively influence or impact a specific neighborhood, how will you balance those interests?
I don't think that's a very tough question at all. The idea that we're here for the benefit of all the city of Oceanside, not just for one neighborhood, not for just a small group of people, but we're here to benefit every single person in Oceanside. When we talk about infrastructure projects, we talk about how we deal with parks and rec and other services. So the idea, it's never an either or for me. The idea, what's the greatest benefit to the greatest number of people? And even though I know there's some people that do not like particular things like roads, but to benefit the whole community is what we need to deal with, not just something that benefits a single neighborhood.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wood, would you like the same question re-asked?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. If you had perceived a quality of life issue facing you where your decision will benefit the residents of the city as a whole, but will negatively influence or impact a specific neighborhood, how will you balance those interests?
Well, thank you. First off, it's impossible to answer that without knowing what the items are to balance out. But right off the bat, I put out on my signs, and I think you know it. Putting people first is very important in this city. Even though we're the largest city in North San Diego County, we still are a city. We are made up of neighborhoods, people, their neighborhoods. They might have something they want, the other neighborhood may not want. It's a decision we have to make, but sometimes you have to figure out what's best for the people that are asking for it and what would the impact be for the city. Prime example is, should we have put on vacancy to control, rent control issue that took a particular group of people and took them on in the city of Oceanside. Even though it didn't affect the entire city, it affected a lot of people. That was wrong, there's no doubt about it. That was mean-spirited and they shouldn't have done it. Now we're looking at Morrill Hills, the last agricultural area of the area, and Oceanside for our growth, our produce out there as a agricultural area, and we want to change that and take it away. We'll never get it back, so that doesn't necessarily affect the whole community, but it does affect the whole city as a whole. It's not necessarily the right thing to do, but you have to sit down and think about people and their lives. Sometimes you have to look at a neighborhood or a person overrides a big issue for the city, and I think that's important to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, would you like the question reread?
No, I'm good. And I will say this. For the most part, I agree with Jim. And here's the reason why. I have lived in Oceanside almost all my life, born and raised here, 60 years, except for 1 year when I lived back in New York. And you have to, well, I'm a little disappointed at how fast and how large we have grown. But it is what it is. So you have to, as a policymaker, be able to find that balance between quality of life and the resources you need to provide services for your residents. Of course, you're not going to, or you should not, pave over every green grass there is, because what are the kids going to do? What are your families going to do? How are you going to enjoy your city? We have 2 or 3 issues that have been dogging this city and several councils for the past 10 years. I'm talking about RDO, Melrose, and you know what they are. If the resources are not there, it's time to put those issues to rest and focus on the smaller issues that will help people feel good about where they live and what's going on today in their life, especially when times are tough like they are right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next question is a 60-second question. The same question will be asked of each candidate, and we'll start with Jim Wood. Which decision you made when you were a member of the City Council do you most regret, and why?
Another tough one, because we have a lot of decisions to make. Some of them I didn't like going with them. Other ones were easy to make. But as a whole, thinking back, I think I regret that I didn't have the ability to influence the rest of the council to keep our employees here. We've probably let go between 140, 150 employees, and I'd like to see them back for one reason. Everybody out in the audience or at home, you really want one thing from me as a mayor or the council is you want us to provide your services that you want. And that means everything, police, fire, streets, water, sewers, you name it. You want us to supply it to you and the best we can for the money we have. Well, I think when we start letting people go, it really impacts those services, and I think that I couldn't get that across to the city as a whole, that we need those people, and that's what we do is provide services.
Thank you. Terry Johnson, it's your turn. Would you like the question reread?
I'm good, Bill. Thank you. Services takes money, just like your own personal household. You can only do for your family with what you have in your account or your pocketbook. Where's the money going to come from? I do regret, I believe it was back in 1999, after Colleen O'Hara and Dick Lyon were not able to participate in the discussion we had in City Hall regarding Manchester versus Catellus. And I was sitting there along with Betty Harding and Carol McCauley. And I know for a fact that I was going to vote for Catellus. Betty was going to vote for Catellus over Manchester, and Carol McCauley walked away from the dais. By removing herself from the dais, we had to end the meeting because we didn't have a quorum. So there goes the support for Catellus. As a result, the next meeting, here comes Dick Lyon back, and by then Betty and Carol had changed their mind regarding what was on the table, and the vote was 3-1 for Manchester. The rest is history.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Jerry Kern, we're going to ask you the same question. Would you like it reread?
No, and I think I've already alluded to it. There's no excuse for it. You know, I was on the council for 4 months. Staff was pushing for the enhanced retirement, the 2.7 at 55 for the general employees, and I went along with staff on that one and voted for it. It was a 4-1. Councilmember Feller rightly voted against it. In retrospect, that is the one vote that I regret, and that's the one vote that if I had to do it over again, that's the one vote that I would change, because that's the one that's affected and hurt the city the most, is because of that pension crisis that we created. You know, there was other councils that did the 3% at 50, and I'm not going to go back and beat them up for that, because at the time it seemed like a good idea. But looking back now, it wasn't a good idea, and we finally got that changed. With my prompting and pushing, we finally got a two-tiered system, and we finally have the employees paying their full share of their own retirement.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next question, we're going to start with Terry Johnson, and each candidate will get the same question. This time you have 90 seconds in which to respond. Recently, a 24-hour convenience store was looking to occupy a building on Coast Highway that had previously been a grocery store. The new business would have created a number of new jobs. However, there was significant political pressure from the surrounding residents to block this project. How would you balance these interests? Terry?
In that case, I would take in the additional traffic impact and the noise impact to the neighborhood, and look at also in the surrounding area, how many of like businesses do you have? You're not going to please everybody. And when you're sitting there as a policymaker, you're going to make some tough choices. I sat there for 12 years. Tough choices had to be made and were made, and you're not going to please everybody. In this case here, I would probably vote against it.
Thank you. Jim Wood, would you be kind enough to respond to the question? Would you like me to reiterate it?
No, thank you. I'm assuming this was the old Vaughn's Market on South Coast Highways, which was an old mom and papa store, kind of quiet, nice. To put a 24-hour store in there that probably would serve liquor and be open all night, right next to one of our better neighborhoods, downtown Oceanside, I can understand their concerns, and I would imagine that neighborhood would go up in arms and call all the council members. They're putting a lot of money into their homes in the area, fixing up. They'd like it to be cottages down there. You're talking about a half a block from your home having a 24-hour store that serves liquor, alcohol, and the kind of clientele that come in late at night. I can see why they didn't want it there, and I would have been supportive. People come first when it comes to that, and we have enough 24-hour stores in town. I'd have voted no for it.
Thank you. Jerry Kern, I'd like to ask you the same question. Would you like me to reread it?
No. I actually, this project died at the Planning Commission just because of that pressure you're talking about. So it's a pretty hypothetical question, but I'll answer it in a hypothetical way. The idea that when you have a business come in, there's always going to be pushback from the neighborhood because they don't like a particular business being in their neighborhood. There was pushback on the Fresh and Easy at the bottom of the hill on Oceanside Boulevard, that we had neighbors that were upset about the Fresh and Easy going in. You're always going to get resistance for no matter what project that comes forward, and you have to work through that. So you have to actually go out to the community and say, look, how can we have this business that actually ameliorates some of your fears and concerns about the business? Now, this particular one was a 7-Eleven. Obviously, with ABC, they said they're not going to serve alcohol after midnight. So the idea that that issue was dealt with. Eventually, they didn't like the light issue, traffic and impacts and things like that. I saw the project. It was a tremendously good-looking project compared to what's there now, because now we have another empty storefront that'll probably be empty for some time now. On the good news is the guy that has the Flying Pig is thinking about looking at it for another restaurant. So there may be some good that comes out of this after all.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is a 60-second question, and we'd like to start with you, Jerry.
Yep.
And the question is, as mayor of the Oceanside City Council, what would be the primary thing you would like to accomplish, and how will you achieve it?
First of all, Bill, I'm going to correct your question. I will not be the mayor of the Oceanside City Council. I will be the mayor of Oceanside. So I will be the mayor of all the city, not just the council. So hopefully we'll get that. So the rest of the question is, how would I deal with that? Or how would what was that?
Okay, let me repeat it again. As the mayor of Oceanside, California, what would be the primary thing you would like to accomplish, and how will you achieve it?
I think the number one thing we need to do is bring jobs to this community. Now, we argue about money here because we have so little of it. Until we start creating jobs in this community and bringing in and expanding our tax base, I think that's the most important job that the council has, and as mayor, take that lead. The idea, I've been working up and down the corridor with Southwest Innovation Cluster. I've been working with Prosperity on Purpose, Bill Horn's project, to bring jobs to not only at Oceanside, but regionally. Once we get enough people here to actually have high enough salaries that can afford our housing, visit our restaurants, and spend money in our stores, the whole the whole city rises because of that. So I think whatever council comes in, no matter who's the mayor, that's got to be the priority. How do we bring jobs, wealth, and well-being to the city of Oceanside?
Thank you. Terry Johnson, I'm going to ask you the question, and I will reread it. As mayor of Oceanside, what would be the primary thing you would like to accomplish, and how will you achieve it?
Thank you. Once again, it goes back to, ladies and gentlemen, establishing some reasonable sense of civility and stability. And you have to eliminate the polarized partisan politics that this council is constantly gripped up with. You have 5 individuals. They're all pretty nice people, but for some reason, 5% or so of the issues, they really disagree, and it can get really, really ugly, and it causes a lot of grief and uncertainty with investors on the outside, and they will not bring their money here to help improve our city unless they feel safe about bringing their money here. Secondly, campaign finance reform, it needs to happen. Some serious pension reform, it needs to happen. Now, instead of just lip service, you really need to think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Jim Wood, I'm going to read the question again. As mayor of Oceanside, what would be the primary thing you would like to accomplish, and how will you achieve it?
Thank you. Similar to Councilmember Kern in a roundabout way, we work every day doing this, so we see what's going on in the city and the community. There's no mayor throughout the United States that has a solution for this economy. We have a finger pointing and blaming people, the state of California, the federal government. There's no easy answer. Nobody came up and said, I have a way to fix this. For us, we're trying to bring business to Oceanside, jobs to Oceanside, like all the other cities. The best way to do that, work with the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street, whatever it may be, and more importantly, as we said, we're working with the county supervisors on their POP program. I meet and have been met over 2 years now with all the mayors in the North County monthly, talk about what we can bring to our region as a whole. When you get mayors together saying they'll sign a piece of paper or send it out to businesses, saying that all the mayors of the North County are supportive of businesses here, it benefits all of us, not just the city. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We're handing you an index card to each of you and a marking pen. We'd like you to write a number to it as you answer the following question. The following question will be asked of each of the candidates, the same question, and we will start with Terry Johnson. So on this card, you're going to write a number, but you're going to respond, and then we may ask to see the number afterwards. During our recent forum for the candidates for Oceanside City Council, the two incumbent candidates had differing opinions on the crime rate in our city. One stated that the crime was the lowest it had been in 30 years, and the other said it was up about 5%. What is your assessment of the crime rate in Oceanside, and what do you think it says about our city? So if you will all write down a number that you think the crime assessment is now, and within 60 seconds, Terry, would you be kind enough to respond, what is your assessment of the crime rate in Oceanside, and what do you think it says about our city?
Crime is on the rise. For the most part, in the residential areas, it's looking okay. But if you go downtown, you'll see as a result of a lot of the resource centers and John Landers Park now being closed, a lot of the young people have left the neighborhoods and are down in the downtown area and the beach areas. Thursday nights, farmer nights, weekends down at the beach. You see an element that we had worked really hard back in the 90s to eliminate or significantly reduce. I led the effort to close down the Playgirl all nude club, and overnight that helped greatly with downtown. And as a result of some other improvements we made, downtown started to blossom. But that element is coming to our downtown area, and that should not be allowed to happen. You need a more of a presence to squash or reduce that negative element that I see coming downtown.
Thank you very much. Jerry Kern, I'd like to ask you the same question. You've written a number down. What is your assessment of the crime rate in Oceanside, and what do you think it says about our city?
Well, actually, crime has gone up about 4% in the last quarter. You know, we get the report, so hopefully people understand that. But most of it has to do with property crime. A couple of the issues that have come up is one is the state pushing down prisoners down to the county. The county's releasing more people out. So the idea that these people that were incarcerated for any period of time are back on the streets. So our property crime is going up. The idea of violent crime, even though they're spectacular in a way that, you know, they make the headlines, there's been a few of those, but significantly no change in that. But a lot of it's property crime, and it's because of the people that are committing those crimes, we can't keep them locked up. We've done a good job over a period of time. The trend, or if you look over the last 30 years, is down, but the last 6 months or 3 quarters, it's starting to creep back up.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Wood, what is your assessment of the crime rate in Oceanside, and what do you think it says about our city?
Well, when I first got on the council, my priority was to try to bring down crime rate. Public safety seemed to be the one to do it, not only the police, but the fire, making citizens feel safe in their homes. Over the last few years, it was down 37%. However, over the last year, it's up 10% over last year. And the reason it is, and I think everybody knows it, The state of California released 30,000 people, nonviolent criminals, back onto the streets. Well, they tend to go to places where we have parole offices, and Oceanside has a parole office. So we got quite a few of them here in Oceanside. And let's face it, I don't know if you check on it, but the police department's down 12 officers. Would that impact crime? Absolutely. 12 officers is a lot. We're down 12.
Thank you very much. Just out of curiosity, would you hold your index cards up so we can see the numbers? And would you tell us, since I don't see that well, so what number you have?
Mine, I said up 10% of last year.
Okay.
I put up 4% because the latest quarter
Okay.
numbers.
Up 5.
Okay, thank you very much. Just for you, it's just interesting to note that while one of the council members thought that crime was down significantly, the actual number which we received from the Oceanside Police Department is that it's up 7%. So just, obviously depends on from what period to what period, but they're mainly speaking 2011 to 2012. So it's great that we focus on that particular issue and attempt to resolve it. I have another question for you. This will be the same for each candidate. We'll start with Jim Wood, and this is a 45-second question. So the question is, what does eminent domain mean to you, and how do you see it being used to achieve the Melrose extension?
It's taking of personal property. It's wrong. I don't support it. It's interesting that we have a council that we'd be willing to take property from all the mobile home park owners, not the property itself, but like units. And then we'll go out and say, we're going to take houses to do Melrose extension. They'd have to have a 4-1 vote to do eminent domain on the council. They don't have it, but they could get it. If they do eminent domain, take those houses, that's personal property. How can you take it? They defend it in one case for the landowners at mobile home parks, but then again, they change it and say it's okay to take land to do Melrose Drive. I don't like it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kern, what does eminent domain mean to you, and how do you see it being used to achieve the Melrose extension?
There's been a case recently, the Kelo decision, about eminent domain, taking property for public benefit. And I'm totally opposed to that. That is, taking property from one group and giving it to another. Eminent domain is designed, and the reason that we have it in our codes is for public use. So the idea of going through and putting in a road, which is public use, that we are allowed to use eminent domain. And a lot of municipalities, cities, use it, and counties use it, and things like that. So using eminent domain for public use is something that we need to do. Otherwise, we don't get roads built. Not just Melrose, but any roads built, because there's always issues with that. I know Jim Wood voted for eminent domain when they put in the 125 in South County. So if he's going to say he's against eminent domain here, but for it when he votes on Sandag, there's a conflict there.
Okay, thank you very much. Terry Johnson, what does eminent domain mean to you, and how do you see it being used to achieve the Melrose extension?
In this case, it's taking of private property. The owners are not in agreement, and I personally think it should not be done. Eminent domain can be used for other means when you have agreeable parties willing to agree to the issue. But in this case, it serves no good for the residents. And I think the time for looking to extend Melrose past where it is right now is past. Number one, the money's not there and will not be for decades to come.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have a question. It's actually sort of a reverse question because you get to design it. I will give you the framework in which the question can be designed, and you have 60 seconds to answer this. And I'm going to start with Jerry Kern. And the question is, in 60 seconds, which question do you wish we would have asked you?
How nice a guy I am? I don't know. No, actually, I think the downtown question, because that's the one that's really going to happen. We're actually next week opening up a hotel project with 124 rooms, 80,000 or 40,000 square feet of retail space. We also have 1010 Mission Avenue, which is the old Belvedere project. It's changing names. That's going to have about 124 hotel rooms, 90 live-work slots. about 80,000 square feet of retail and office space, so that's happening. We are right now waiting for Sandag because we applied for a $1.5 million grant for the Mission Avenue improvements and beautification. So the idea of really knowing what's going on in your city is very important on the mayor's part. So, and I have been really up on what's happening throughout the region, and particularly in Oceanside, about what's happening economically, what's happening developmentally, and what's happening in our community.
Great, thank you. Terry Johnson, the question again in 60 seconds. What is the question you wish we would have asked you?
12 years of service, you want me to answer it in 60 seconds? I can't do it, but when you look at all that we did over the years, all the parks we built, the new police station, the fire station, the wonderful upgrades to downtown, the business parks, Ocean Ranch, Prescott Business Park. I wish maybe you could have asked me about Manchester Resorts and Doug Manchester coming to Oceanside. How did that really happen? Because I got blamed for Manchester. And I did not bring Manchester to Oceanside. But being the mayor of Oceanside, as you get praised, you get criticized. So yes, I accept the blame, but I did not bring Manchester to Oceanside. I helped to get him out of Oceanside, but I did not bring him to Oceanside.
Okay, thank you. And Jim Wood, in 60 seconds, which question do you wish we would have asked you?
I actually smile at this one because I was expecting you to say, who do you support for the council seats or whatever, and see where we stand on things. And I think I like that question. I certainly think it's an important issue. I need help on the council. I'm on the voting minority, and it's hard to get things done from my point. So I would think that having a different council is important. I certainly would support Dana Corso because she fought hard for defeating ENF, defending the seniors and the veterans in Oceanside. Certainly still support Esther Sanchez because she does go out there and fight for everybody. And then I would certainly support somebody else who is one of your own. I'd like to see Mr. Sawyer over here as the city clerk.
Okay, thank you very much. He was keeping the card down to see if you were going to say more about him at the time. I notice we have a little more time, so I have one more question. It's kind of like a bonus question, and 45 seconds on this particular question. And I would like to start with you, Mayor Wood.
Yes.
The main roadway, Coast Highway, which fronts City Hall, is flanked by vacant storefronts, non-family friendly businesses, and a general unkempt area. Many first-time visitors to our city often develop this as their first impression of our community. Considering that we have one of the finest beaches on the West Coast, as well as wonderful attractions such as the Oceanside Museum of Art, the historic Star Theater, and Sunshine Brooks, all within a block or two of City Hall, what importance do you place on upgrading this area, and how do you think the city can help?
Well, I think it's going in that direction. I still believe in my heart that the economy will change around slowly and be positive. But I said earlier in the first question for me, there's a lot of people out there working for us, partnerships. I mean, the hotels are coming in, the downtown beach area, the hotel that we all talked about, the Pier Project, it is moving forward even though the state stopped it with redevelopment. All those things are coming in. A lot of small businesses along Coast Highway and downtown have been waiting for those bigger projects to open up, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Terry Johnson, I'm going to ask you the same question, and it is a long one, so I'll repeat it again. The main roadway, Coast Highway, which fronts City Hall, is flanked by vacant storefronts, non-family friendly businesses, and a generally unkempt area. Many first-time visitors to our city often develop this as their first impression to our community. Considering that we have one of the finest beaches on the West Coast, as well as wonderful attractions such as the Oceanside Museum of Art, the historic Star Theater, and Sunshine Brooks, all within a block or two of City Hall, what importance do you place on upgrading this area, and how do you think the city can help?
All the wonderful amenities you just named happened under my administration, or while Dick Lyon was still the mayor. And we also worked very hard during that time to improve and enhance the gateways into Oceanside, how you look coming into Oceanside off the freeway. And we started the dialogue back then also regarding upgrading the Mission Corridor and Coast Highway. It's it's critical that the policymakers continue that push in that direction of upgrading Coast Highway, because at one time that was the number one road going north and south through our city. But because of the economy and other issues, it has fallen on hard times.
Thank you very much. And
Bill, I won't make you do it again. I'll just
you're
answer
so
the
kind.
question. Because I'm keenly aware of what's happening downtown. I walk that every day. I go in and talk to the business people there. You know, they were clinging on by their fingernails, hoping for whatever hotel project will come. So luckily we're breaking ground next month or next week on one of the projects. But there's other things that's happening. The 10 Fish is open. Everybody's got to go down and go to the 10 Fish underneath the pier. That's a tremendous asset that people are just realizing. There's Petite Madeline, right across the street from City Hall. That's another one. And then there's a new restaurant right next to the Brooks Theater that people need to come to and do. Things are happening. Are they happening as quickly as anybody in this room wants? No, but they are happening.
thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We hope that you got an insight to our wonderful candidates. What do you think about the program today? This is put on by the Chamber of Commerce, and thank you.